Hello there. My name is Mark, aka the Canardian Jedi, and this is episode 101 of Holocron Chronicles. Celebrated the big 100 last week, and now we're keeping on moving. I'm joined, as always, by my trusty co-pilot, Charlie Carden. Charlie.
Pew, pew, pew.
All
right. It's the Colonel who loves Spider-Man. Let me go. Ooh. Holiday
Perfect.
This was my 4th of July Spider-Man
ugly
shirt.
Christmas sweater.
Oh, I love it. I feel like I have one.
Nice.
I feel like I do have an ugly Christmas sweater for Star Wars that I should have done, but I thought about it too late. So here I am. I at least was able to toss the jacket on. And look at this handsome gentleman in the corner here. This is my regular Star Trek cohort crossing over for the 5th or 6th time to join us, Mr. Peter Stine. Peter, good evening.
Hello.
I figured I was committing to the bit a little bit too much with an ugly Christmas sweater. You went full Vader. So I really appreciate this.
Yeah, that's good. The
Fantastic.
rebreather. That looks like is that a 3D print?
It's 3D printed. It's left over from 2020.
Yeah, it's got that 3D print kind of sheen to it. Now that I look at it, but that's not a bad thing. Well, cool. Yeah. Let's jump in. We're talking about, we decided, Mark, you and I, that we're going to do Skeleton Crew kind of one episode at a time because it airs on Tuesday. We record on Monday, which doesn't really give us, even if we bump to Tuesday or Wednesday, it kind of throws things off. But this way we get to kind of stretch things out a bit. But there's so much to talk about with the show. I think
the next episode of Holocron Chronicles, we will have 2 episodes to catch up on. They'll be next week, or like this week, tomorrow, and then next week. So this is the only one that we're really just dealing with one episode. But I think that'll be all right. We have some news to talk about, and some weird stuff, some strange things. But before we get into that, Charlie,
what
would you like to thank some amazing people?
We got to pay some bills and thank some amazing people. As always, I love to talk about our Secret Friends Unite wonderful Patreon squad. If you visit patreon.com/Secret Friends Unite, you can get a lot of great bonus content that we've been making. We're now about to hang 2 years on the line that we've been doing bonus content, which I absolutely love. To start with, you can do it for 7 days for free. You can actually get all of our regular content ad-free. You can get it early episodes, like the Code 47 Star Trek show that Peter and I do, comes out 2 days early when you are a Patreon. And all this great bonus material, including a comic podcast that Todd, who's our third co-host, and I do. Peter and I and a lot of other people do a great show called The Facts Geek Life, where we talk about classic TV shows. And you can just have a lot of fun. After that 7 days, you can stay on board for as little as $2 a month. It's a fraction of your weekly Starbucks bill. Let's face it. It's a lot of entertainment for $2. It's absolutely worth it. But these great folks who I'm going to talk about here they're already hip to be square. I love it. I'm talking about Derek Trevelyan, who's a good buddy of mine. We call him the Figure Dude. Francie, who is the official hairstylist of SFU. She does my wife's hair. Xbox expansion pass, that would be Mr. Luke Lohr, friend of the show, and my great uncle Tim Horan. Great fella. Also, John Sedorf, the awesome Phoenix Sisters Cosplay, Kelly and Crayley, actually about to launch their own podcast network. So pay attention to their Patreon,
awesome.
And you can learn all about that. Brendan Myers, Korean HD, boss for us, CEO, who is a very good friend. We do a lot of collaborative work together. We're actually participating.
Yeah, something exciting coming up.
Yeah, something coming up. I know I'm doing stuff. You and Todd are doing stuff. Matthew Keel, a great friend of the show. And my buddy Kurt Krug, who has been kind of the background of all the great Patreon Spotlight episodes that we've been doing. Peter and I have had a chance to talk to Adam Nimoy. We've had a chance to talk with Michael Jan Friedman, who's an author, and we're actually talking with Greg Cox, who's another Star Trek author in the near future here. So all of that is easy to find over on our Discord. Again, or excuse me, not on our Discord. Our Discord is an extra part of it, excuse me, but over on the Patreon at patreon.com/Secret Friends Unite. 7 days for free, and as little as $2 a month to stay on board. We would love to have you, but we would be nowhere without our top tier secret friends on the Super Squad. That would be the awesome Nias family of the Twin Cities, Sean, Stella, and Henry. Very grateful for everything that you guys give to us. So we love that. And as I had mentioned, our Patreon, or excuse me, our Discord is absolutely the best place to have all of the most exciting geek chats out there, and that is free. But when you're a Patreon, you get a little extra bonus because we have a Patreon-only channel as well. So check all that out. Our YouTube channel is also a great place to find us on video. You might be watching us there now. Audio as well. You can also rate and subscribe us on any podcast catcher of your choice, and it really helps the program out. Really helps make us more visible. So, all right, that's the end of the commercial portion of the show. I'm going to turn it back to Mark, who's going to talk about some Star Wars news.
Absolutely. Well, before I get to that, I am dropping a Jennifer Hale interview exclusive early for the Patreon people this week. So if you're a fan of Jennifer Hale, who has done voice acting in everything at this point, she's done several Star Wars characters, lots of Disney stuff, X-Men 97. She's been all over the place. Check out that interview dropping for Patreon subscribers this week. So if you didn't check out the free trial, now's the week to do it if you're a fan of Jennifer Hale. So check that out. Absolutely. Okay. Yes.
You should go there.
Yes. Absolutely. Yes. All right. Yeah, we've got some weird news this week. And when this news came out, I was very confident that we could do this episode with only one episode of Skeleton Crew because, like, what? So Jeremy Allen White supposedly, seemingly has joined the movie The Mandalorian and Grogu. Charlie, when this first started dropping, I think it was on like Threads or Blue Sky or something, and you shared it with me, and I was like, I call bullshit until I see a reputable source.
Right.
And then everyone reported it.
Boom. It was coming out of everywhere. Yeah, exactly. So you were like, you finally had to bow down to the inevitable.
So the minor problem that I have with this, and the reason I'm still taking it with a grain of salt, is because every single place, every single website, Variety, Hollywood Reporter, it doesn't matter what it is, IGN, every single place linked back to the same YouTube conversation that was reported on the same whatever Blue Sky account, whatever it was.
Yeah.
So all of this is stemming from just one guy. I can't remember who it was or what the context of the interview was, but I did watch the clip, and yeah, this guy's just kind of like talking. They're talking on like a YouTube podcast or whatever. And
iffy. Yeah.
It's a sketchy kind of report. Has not been corroborated or confirmed by Lucasfilm. So I'm still taking this with several grains of salt, but I think it's fun to talk about anyway.
I agree. And it's a weird mismatch. We've been a fan of Jeremy Allen White since Shameless, which is a Showtime program. Yeah. I don't know if you sampled it, but we watched it from the very beginning. He was a young teen. He was a youngish teen. We'd started that show, so we kind of watched him evolve. Great character arc, really, for every character in this show. That is an incredible show that if you've not checked it out, it's absolutely worth doing it. And then he parlayed that into being kind of hunk of the year over on a show called The Bear, which airs on Hulu. You can see it on Disney Plus as well. Yeah, great show. I know, it was funny. I was telling the story that we started watching the most recent season. We watched 2 episodes, and we were so anxiety ridden by the end of those 2 episodes. We were like, I don't know if we can watch anymore. And I walked away, and April watched the rest of it without me. So I'm like, I thought it was making you anxious. Why were you doing that? So I've not seen the rest of it. But yeah, it's funny because I work in the business. I work in the food service equipment business. So it's particularly salient to my work life. So I suppose I should go back and give it a chance. But yeah, he's a big deal. And he's a gorgeous man. That's not even sexual. It's just factual. So for him to take on a voicing role, which is what this leads back to, and back to a kind of a deep cut, animated, back from 2008 character, which would be the son of Jabba the Hutt, who we met in his infancy in the exact same instance where we met Ahsoka as a character, which would be the animated Clone Wars film, which came out summer of 2008. was really just a couple of produced episodes of that series before it aired. It was kind of kind of under the radar, but introduced what has become one of the most important characters in all of Star Wars in that time, which would be Ahsoka. So Jeremy Allen White will be voicing Rada the Hutt, who would at this point would be assumingly to be the grown son of the then deceased Jabba the Hutt, who obviously died in Return of the Jedi, which was 5 years prior to the beginning of the Mandoverse. What does this mean? I don't know. I don't know. What does it mean?
Yeah, so we're looking at, and I looked up all of this. I did research for this.
Okay.
So here we go. So Rhoda, aka Punky Muffin, aka Stinky, Jabba's son, would be, now we don't have an exact time of birth, so we've got about a 2-3 year window when he could have been born and whatever. So taking that and extrapolating to, Mando season 1, about 5-6 years or whatever it is after Return of the Jedi, and then a couple of years at least has passed. We're assuming at least 1 year per season of that show, possibly a couple of years break depending on when the movie pops out. So he could be anywhere between 35 and 40, depending when this comes out.
Middle-aged, I guess. Middle-aged, midlife crisis.
Depending on what the age.
A little longer than humans, so he's a little younger, I would say.
That's true.
Yeah,
like Grogu. Maybe that's the connection. Maybe he and Grogu are going to be like, "Hey, bro, let's boost Dad's car and we'll go to Vegas, Space Vegas."
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
I'm thinking like, Dad's dead. Dad's cousins decided Tatooine wasn't worth fighting for. They kind of like effed off and let Boba Fett kind of run the show.
Yeah.
His uncle Zero, we know, was killed by Cy Snoodles of all people. Spurred lover.
So random, my God.
Spurred lover / go-go dancer, singer / part-time assassin, because it's Star Wars.
It's okay. I like it.
So I was theorizing like maybe Stinky's taking up the family business. He's ready to fill some vacancy. You think he's just essentially a teenager getting ready to blow off some steam.
Sounds that way. Yeah.
With a potentially aging 50-year-old Grogu going through a rebellious phase.
Right. It feels like there would be a way to connect the two, if they're really on the same plane, because otherwise, you don't really know. We talked about this in our last episode, where the Mando movie might connect to the overall narrative, because we were really fearful that, what if they try a Zack Snyder and they try to jam everything into one movie, and now we're all set up for the whole thing with Thrawn and we're going to have a big movie over it and blah, blah, as opposed to doing, as we contrasted it there, what Marvel did, taking its time, growing things, let it be organic. Bringing Rada the Hutt in, that's really a left field kind of deal. And as you said, until you really hear it from Lucasfilm, it's not really an absolute, but we do have the credibility of the fact that it has been talked about by Variety or The Hollywood Reporter or, Screen Crush or Screen Rant or different websites that we all consider to be pretty reputable, obviously, for the industry and for the genre. So I don't know. I don't know what they're really planning to do with this deal. It's really out there.
Peter, any thoughts on like any single part of this? You can pick and choose what you want to talk about. Like,
please.
The casting's weird. Like we've gotten Zero speaking English.
Right.
We know it's possible for a Hutt.
Yeah.
Like what? Yeah. Peter, tackle this any way you want to, man. I want to hear your opinions.
Yeah. So it seems weird that you would cast someone who's known to have like a good screen presence to be a voice for something that's as high profile as Star Wars.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that most people are just like, hey, I get to be in a Star Wars project. Woohoo. And so, I mean, if that's what it is, great. But to cast someone like that as a voice, especially for a character that like almost no one is going to know who he is.
True.
Like, cause like, I mean, I saw it. I immediately knew who Rada the Hutt was because I saw the Clone Wars movie back when it came out.
Yeah.
and I've watched it since because I'm a dork and I do that. But bringing back this character is definitely, like you said, it's like way out of left field. It does raise the question of what are you planning on doing with this character? Because I'm all for bringing characters back if it makes sense. Because sometimes you can do something fun with them or something random, or like, hey, this character was like this really random dude, and now we're gonna make him cool. All right, I'm all for it.
Right.
But it's Jabba the Hutt's son. The most we've seen a Hutt move is in the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
Every time we see them in live action, like I think the only time we saw Jabba move was in Episode 1.
Right.
No, wait. The special edition of 4.
Yeah,
so special edition.
He was kind of sliding along, talking to Solo, and he was like,
he moved a little bit, but we haven't seen like Hutts do anything that's all that dynamic.
Yeah,
but
dynamic.
Boba Fett, they were being carried in.
They had a giant palanquin thing.
Yeah.
Right.
And so it's just an interesting, like, if we're putting him as like he's going to be a contender for Jabba's empire, or maybe he's taken over Jabba's empire that's not Tatooine, because that was something that got missed in Book of Boba Fett, was that Jabba's empire is larger than Tatooine.
Right.
So if we're bringing him back as like the heir apparent to Jabba's empire, and now something's going amok, and he's coming back to Tatooine, though I think the movie should steer clear of Tatooine if they can help it, because everyone keeps going back there.
Yeah, can't go back to the well.
I mean, lots of stuff happened there. There's lots of things, but maybe avoid desert planets for just a hot minute. But it could be interesting to see what they do with that. I don't know that they're going to pull the teenage card. At least I hope not, because I'm not the biggest fan of like the aging. Like, every species ages differently. I get that, but I don't want us to have two of the same thing. If you know what I mean?
I'm with you there.
Like, I don't want like, here is 40-year-old Rod of the Hutt, and he's like 12, and here's Grogu, and he's 55, and he's like 7.
Yeah.
Like,
It's too much. It is a whole lot of math to get yourself in the headspace of enjoying the finished product, right?
Yeah, it's like, do I really want to see? I mean, that the movie that just came to mind is not the right one, but because that's more what we're talking about now. But like, do I want to see like Ferris Bueller's Day Off with 12-year-olds? Not really, especially if one of them can't move very well.
Oh, right, yeah. I'll catch up with you. Hold on. Let me get my little bike. He'll get like a rascal scooter. He'll catch up. I'm coming.
I hope they do something interesting with the character, but again, it's not like super confirmed, so I don't know.
Yeah.
But it would be interesting to bring him in if they did something with like he's really angry about taking it over or whatever. You could take it somewhere interesting, but
and like
I don't know.
He does have a great voice. Like Charlie, you said, like, Jeremy Allen White, he's like a handsome dude, but like he also, like, there are just lines that you hear in The Bear or in some stuff that he's done that like, he has such a great delivery and a great feel and a great anger to his voice. So Peter, like, you're right on. Like, if this is something that portrays anger, like, you easily could have gone with like D. Bradley Baker or someone like that, who's just done and knows voice roles in the Star Wars universe. Like, it's easy to choose that, or choose whoever really can read these lines and put some sort of like Hutt style filter on it or something like that, or like have it in Hutt-ese, and then
Hutt stink on it.
I kind of assume that Rhoda's gonna speak kind of like Zero did.
Yeah.
He'll speak if this is all true. I'm assuming this is going to be an English role, not Jeremy Allen White making up words that sound Hutt-esque in a booth somewhere and just screaming the Hutties word for cousin into a microphone and calling it a day. I do assume that if this is real, that they're casting him for a reason, and I think that's the emotional delivery and weight that he can carry just with his voice.
The absolute Chicago style Hutt. I got it. Yeah, deep dish Hutt. Yeah.
The only thing that I think is if they do go the anger route and he's trying to take over or retake over Jabba's empire, if you're gonna bring in Boba Fett, don't kill him off screen.
Yes.
Just because that tends to be a thing where, like, hey, we don't want to deal with this character. We wrote ourselves into a corner, and so we're just going to see the helmet on a
pooch. They got a pooch him. Yeah,
please.
Exactly. Yeah.
No, I would even I would accept. I'd love to see like if they do that and he's taken over the Empire. I want to see that with Boba Fett, but Boba Fett kind of said at the end of Book of Boba Fett, like, I don't know if this suits me. Like, I kind of like, I saw this as a thing I could clean up. We cleaned it up. But now that I actually have it, he's like a dog that finally caught the car. And he's just like, oh, I can't do anything with a car. So now what do I do?
I can't drive.
You know what I mean? Like he got the car. Like he doesn't really care.
A method to get the character free from Tatooine so they can use him for something else.
It could be
right.
And you could get Rhoda interacting with someone and just saying like, hey, I heard you took over Tatooine. Like I thought Boba Fett was doing that. And it'd be like, yeah, Boba Fett.
He just broke out. He was he's going backpacking across Europe or something, or the equivalent. Yeah. He's like, I got to go find myself after all this. Yeah.
Rex showed up and they're doing a bros trip to Camino.
My son. Me and my son are going to explore the ruins of Camino on a cruise. Yeah. Oh, a cruise! They can do a cruise on that planet because it's all water. You just keep going.
The constant cruise. But yeah, I totally agree. I hope this isn't like the off-screen death of Boba Fett because he's such an iconic character.
That'd be tough.
Even if he's explained away, just not killed. I don't like you said.
I mean, if it's like
he's still out there,
he went off somewhere, or he and Finnick decided to go deal with something.
Yeah,
right.
I'll be fine with that. Just don't kill him off screen.
Don't do the he got hit by he died in a car crash or something or whatever. That would suck.
Yeah. And you could have Carson Teager or something like that come in and look at Mando and say like, I thought Boba Fett was on Tatooine, and Mando say like, I called in a favor. He's off planet.
Yeah,
that's it. Boba Fett's
or even
away.
Like
right.
Well, Bo-Katan wouldn't really call for him, but
So it's all Captain Marvel is in space, like in the Spider-Man movie.
Yeah.
Like why can't other people help? They're not available. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's it. Off planet, off world. Don't say her name. Don't worry about. Yeah, like that. So I think I don't know, man. I it's interesting. No matter what, this has been one of the best casting rumors in Disney's favor in a long time.
True.
Because the amount of people talking about it, the memes have been next level. Just the clips. Have you guys seen the clips taken from the movie? But like actual like clips from the bear put over clips from like the Clone Wars movie and stuff.
Oh no, I have not. That might be for some sharing in the show notes.
Oh dude, I think
that's legit.
I gotta share some stuff with you.
Yeah, that's legit.
The memes have been just off the hook. They've been so good. And it's still going. People are still talking about it. How often does casting still get talked about?
Well,
that's 2 weeks. How long ago was it?
Then Disney hit the jackpot because they're generating some real steam heat which is important in cooking. Excuse me, cooking, steam plus convection is a combi oven. See, I'm bringing you some knowledge from my line of work. That's very important for a project that is over a year away from hitting the screen. So they're building enthusiasm. They're making the steam rise. And then the convection is pushing it around the cavity of the oven, so it's very important. They're doing it.
I want to flash up the More You Know graphic right now. I don't know if we can afford that, so go check us out on Patreon and fire some more bucks, and we'll get the graphics team on that. The more you know. And I think if this isn't real, I hope someone at Disney is looking at this, or at Lucasfilm is like looking at all of these memes and things that are coming out and all the buzz that this is generating. Like, should we get this guy on the phone? Should we make this a thing?
I bet you better believe
let's do some reshoots. I don't it's
we're Disney. We can make it happen. And look, we scrapped the whole Solo movie and made a different movie. And even though we bitch about it, we still found a way to make a couple of bucks. It's Disney.
It is. Any final thoughts on this one before we move along?
I just want to know more. I would like to see something from Lucasfilm that locks it down. That's my big interest, because otherwise it's just, we've had our fun and that's great, but it'd be good to know something else.
I imagine if this is real, again, I said this before a week or two ago. I think we'll learn more in April or whenever. It's
May.
April that
April, May.
When is it? April that Star Wars
it's funny
is going on, right?
I've been doing that sweepstakes registration almost every day. I actually have it on my bookmarks bar. I can look right at it where I register to win the trip.
Okay.
So we'll see if I'm lucky. I don't do it every day, but you can do it every day. If you go to a certain link, you can register to win their grand prize, which is a trip over to Tokyo to go to Celebration and everything. But find it on StarWars.com if you've not registered.
Star Wars Celebration, April 18th. So I would say, go. I mean, if you have a character or an actor this high profile playing this character, I think you're going to roll them out at Celebration.
Yeah.
That would be the smart.
Why wouldn't you? Get people, get that face, get that handsome dude up on stage, and then you're going to make these memeable moments, because no matter how good Rhoda the Hutt looks, he's still a Hutt. He could be the most jacked Hutt, because we've seen some jacked Hutts in the comics, but he's still a Hutt. You know what I mean? Like,
Rippling.
And then so you're going to have the side by sides of and it's such a great memeable casting moment that they have to roll this guy out on stage and just be like, we found our perfect Hutt, and like, hopefully he's got a good sense of humor that he plays along with it.
Play in. Do it.
Yeah. And then we could get a little reunion, get Cal Kestis in live action on this one, and
it'd be good to loop it in.
Little reunion.
It'll happen. It'll happen eventually for you. Oh God, you're right. Shameless, the Star Wars the Shameless.
There we
story.
go.
Oh, yes. I would love it. The brothers together again. I would love it. That's a great show. So that's my plug. Again, available on Showtime, which is also Paramount Plus. If you've not seen it, I think it's 8 seasons, but William H. Macy, who is a tremendous actor at his very best, everybody in that show clicks. And it's weird because we were watching something which showed clips from the first season where all the kids were babies, and then when they get to the end of it, they're all grown. It's so weird. So weird.
Yeah.
But it's a great show.
Once in a while, like a clip will pop up on like TikTok or something like that while I'm scrolling through, and it's like, you never know, like you said, like you watch it and you never know if they're going to be kids or if it's going to be a clip from like later years in that show. And it's always fun to watch and just be like, oh yeah, right. We watched all of these people grow up.
Yeah.
Like right there.
Shows are crazy like that. There's no doubt about it. Anyway, speaking of kids, in a more positive light, we should transition to talking about episode 3 of, I'm not going to say the Skeleton Key because Todd zinged me on that. It's the Skeleton Crew, which is this absolutely fantastic Star Wars show that is now on Disney Plus. We're talking about episode 3, which is called, very interesting, as an astrogation problem. I don't know a lot of episode and Peter, back me up, because Star Trek is always very big with episode titles. Do we have many of them with commas?
Not very, no.
Yeah,
there's like 1 or 2.
I can't think of. We got our first episode this season of Lower Decks that had double exclamations. We had a question mark and an exclamation point for Starbase 80, which is, if you watch the show, Mark, you should continue watching Lower Decks. It's wonderful. It ends this week, so you can you can watch all of it. But it's a wonderful program. But I don't want to get too far off course. But anyway, yes, very interesting. An astrogation problem, directed by David Lowery, Christopher Ford, and John Watts, the Star Wars guy who created the show, or excuse me, Spider-Man guy who created the show. It aired just this past week, December 10th, on at Etlin, Wendell Farah, Neela's mother Numa, who is like the 1984 poster child, and KB's parents, Mary and Garani, are told by a security droid that due to the kids going past the barrier, you're shit out of luck. Sorry, you lost your kids. We don't. You're toast. And then the parents start freaking out, and then we cut away. Pursuant to the end of the last episode, what's it? Anyway, Jude Law. I'm just going to call him Jude Law. It's easier for me. Jude Law helps the kids escape the brig, but they refuse to leave without SM-33 aka Nick Frost droid, forcing Jude Law to go back and rescue him. They outwit all the pirates and they flee. Fern refuses to trust Jod for great reasons. Wim and Neil are convinced that he is a real Jedi, and KB reluctantly admits that he is their only hope for getting home. Jod takes the kids to meet his friend Kim, K-H apostrophe A-Y-M-M, A-Y-M-M. Yeah, Kim. All right. A map expert who even he doesn't trust, and she's a size-appropriate owl. So, I don't know. Why? Catbird, there you go. Kim She's refers to Jod as Crimson Jack. Nice deep cut. We'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah.
Before revealing that Atlan is amongst a series of legendary planets that have protected themselves with a barrier, but Atlan is potentially the only one that still exists. She prints the coordinates on a data card, because data cards are very big in Star Wars. You can't email or just put things in the cloud. But Jod realizes that she was stalling for the authorities to arrive and causes a kerfuffle and forces the kids to flee. Jod finally admits that he is not a Jedi, but they agree that they must work together to get what they want and escape the authorities to their next destination. X-Wing Commander Kent interrogates Kim about the group's whereabouts, to which she says, "Even if I told you, you wouldn't believe me." And scene. That's it. Wow.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Yeah. And again, I watched it for a second time right before I came down here, so I'm very fresh.
Yeah. Love the mystery in this one.
Mm-hmm.
Just great at every single time you think they answer something, they ask 3 new questions. And I hope, unlike Lost or something like that, it really feels like they're going to answer all the questions, because they haven't steered away from answering some questions already, and we're only 3 episodes in. So it seems like the kind of show where they're not afraid to wrap all of this up in one season. And even John Watts has said he has a plan for season 2, but because it's not confirmed yet and they're going to let the kids age up a bit, there's going to be a time jump if there is a season 2.
Right.
Meaning we can be pretty darn confident that they're going to wrap this season up. They're going to wrap up most of the loose ends. They might plant a seed or 2 for, like, here's a star map to one of these other legendary planets. Let's go try to find it sometime.
Yeah. It's like Krypton, like Superman and Superman Returns. Well, Krypton might still be out there, but maybe it's not.
Right.
Take this big journey to find out if it is. Yeah.
So I think we can be pretty safe that, you know, this stuff's going to wrap up and all this is going to be explained. But what did you guys think of this episode? Peter, let's start with you again. Like I said, I dug the mystery setup and stuff, but what were your feelings about this one?
I quite enjoyed this episode. I thought it was fun how they, like, played up how the kids were, like, arguing about whether or not they should trust Jod, and so you have them, like, where do we go? Do we do this? And he's, like, sneaking around doing his own thing and, you know, knocking people out, opening doors, and then, like, much later you have the scene with KB where she's like, "You're not using the Force, it's all tricks," and then he turns the lights off, and so it's like, so I like how they're keeping us as the audience a little bit more in the know than the characters, but not much. And I think that that's a good storytelling strategy there.
Yeah.
Because it helps us kind of, like, is he or isn't he a Jedi? I mean, I pretty much thought that he wasn't right from the get-go. I think he's the character with the helmet from the beginning.
Yeah.
And then there's other shenanigans going around there.
Yeah.
So I thought that the escape was hilarious. The one pirate who recognized him, and then there's the implication that he probably shot him in the end because he's a pirate still.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. For sure.
But they get away. I mean, I'm loving SM-33. He's hysterical. It's also just like, you have a pirate droid.
Yeah.
You have a pirate droid who acts like a pirate. is just
with,
really
with his own little mouse eye socket,
he's
which
got
is
his own
just
mouse
great.
eye socket. He's got a peg leg for no good reason, just because.
Right? Why
Because
would a droid have a
pirates.
peg leg? All of their stuff is swap outable,
And he
but yeah,
limps around, and then every
yeah,
once in a while, when he decides to be intimidating, he just like pulls up to his whole full height, which is 6'5".
yeah,
Like,
right. Oh
it's
my
like,
gosh,
wow, that guy's tall.
yeah,
Yeah.
So that I thoroughly enjoyed all of that. The absolute shenanigans of escaping the station was just ridiculous in a good way, but it was
yeah,
ridiculous.
yeah.
And then towards the end, we get the kids doing what everyone wants to do, which is fire the turbo lasers
And being super
Yes.
excited about it. Yeah, at different levels. Yeah. One is
Yes.
like smirking. So you get basically, if I can jump forward to that part, you get our young lady is Han Solo, and then our young man is Luke Skywalker, like, oh god, I can't believe this is happening. And she's like, oh yeah, pew pew pew. Dude, come on, kid, don't get cocky. That was a beautiful callback. I absolutely adored it.
Yeah.
It was just a great scene.
Yeah.
I love it. Absolutely love it. Yeah, and I like that there are those little nods. And we talked about this back when we talked about episode 1 and 2 of like being okay with this not tying into other Star Wars projects in an outward way of like, hey, here's the Mandalorian, and here's Boba Fett, and here's Luke, and here's all these people that are around at this kind of vague but kind of narrowed in time. But at the same time, there are those little nods to Star Wars or to other things. Like we just talked about Smee, and there's like Goonies references all over the place,
Right.
and just pirate references. So good. Let's cut. Like we're talking about references, and Charlie, you already mentioned this one. Crimson Jack.
Right. Nice.
Goes all the way back to 1977.
That is I've talked about that. My introduction to comics in general was Marvel's first Star Wars run, and that started in 1977. They did an adaptation of the film, and then they jumped into a 106 issue run that ended in 1986. I picked up with issue 65, which was 1982. I was 6 years old at the Notre Dame Pharmacy in the Village in Grosse Pointe, Michigan, where I grew up, and that was my first love. That was 4 years before I ever read a superhero comic. So Star Wars was my first love in comics, without a doubt. I have a copy. If you ever been to my home, at the top of the stairs, right next to our master bathroom, I do have a copy of that issue framed because it's so special to me. Right above the first issue of The Further Adventures of Indiana Jones, #1, written and drawn by John Byrne, who is one of my favorite creators. But I digress. The Crimson Jack reference, I probably picked up reading with regularity that Marvel series definitely later in the run, that I was picking it up we got a subscription and I was reading it all the time, probably issued like 80, 85, 90. So not that far from the end. But yeah, the Crimson Jack was way before my time, because I was born in 76. So I was not reading anything when I was 1 year old, and finding older comics back in the day was more of a laborious chore than it is in this day and age, because everything is just on Marvel Unlimited. It's easy to find. So I'm not super familiar with the Crimson Jack character. Mark, did you do some research? Did you jump ahead and figure out what's going on with that?
No, I really haven't gone back, and I'm gonna have to, just to really see what this character was all about. But I read a little bit about the character, and weirdly enough, one of the things that I came across was Crimson Jack was brought back into canon already.
Oh,
and
okay.
It is decidedly not this like Jude Law character.
Okay.
So brought back into canon in the first episode of a comic miniseries, Star Wars Halcyon Legacy.
Okay. Which was
published
about the cruise. That was recent. Or that
2022, I believe.
Okay.
So yeah, very, very strange. What I can gather from this is that Jod has heard names of pirates. He's a smart guy. He's heard tales. And I still think because of this reference, he might be an ex-Jedi. I still think there's something there where he knows some of these stories because I think there's like he knows the history. This guy spent some time in archives, and I don't think it's just pirate specific stuff. I think he's picked some piratey names, and Crimson Jack is one of them. Totally. And when he stopped, he's a quick, smart dude. So when he's stopped by someone like a Hutt or someone who's chasing him, and they're like, "Stop! What is your name?" Or he's doing some shady deals, he's like, "Don't worry about it. I'm Crimson Jack."
Yeah, we're good.
And nobody else has ever heard of this legendary pirate, but he knows enough from the archives that it's a pirate-sounding name, and it's a little nod to this outlandish character from the past. So I like Jod, I think, is a lot smarter than he might appear. Mm-hmm. Again, giving a lot of like those Jack Sparrow, which is all like, kind of a Crimson Jack sounding name.
Sparrow or an owl, as we find out. Catbird. Yeah. A lot of is happening in here.
Yeah. So I love that there's always that little subtext that Jod knows. At the same time, Jod knows way more than what he lets on, but also is making everything up as he goes.
Right.
And he plays it perfectly.
An air of awareness, an air. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But watching Jude Law in this, I'm reminded just how perfectly charming he is. I mean, he's never played a role, even when he's a creep like the talented Mr. Ripley or Captain Marvel, where he's, the bad Kree guy and he's the super sexist, beat me with your bare hands, and then he gets shot and like, I don't need to prove anything to you. He's a total dickwad, but he's super charming. I would put him in kind of my top 10 of actors. Like, I could probably watch this guy in anything because I just really enjoy him, and he's so affable and personable, and I just enjoy watching him. But he nails this. He's good with these kids. He's kind of dancing that line, like when and I keep screwing up the kid's name. The Han Solo version of the young girl who says, "Well, isn't it part of the Jedi code that you never leave anyone behind?" And he's like, "Well, that's not really a Jedi thing." But she says, "What about this thing or that thing?" She's like, "Absolutely, that's totally a Jedi thing." He's just absolutely, he's the kid in third grade who didn't read the book for the book report, just bullshitting his way through it. He's got to do what he's got to do to get from point A to point B, and he figured these kids are a pretty easy mark because they're kids are dumb, but a couple of them are, but one of them is not, so one of them is calling him out on his bullshit as he goes.
But at the same time, like, depending on when he was being trained to be a Jedi, like, they may not have respected droids like that, like counting as a don't leave anyone behind. And they may have been fighting alongside clones that were decidedly expendable. So the Jedi don't leave anyone behind thing, he's kind of right. Like, depending on when he was trained or how he was trained, like, that's not really a tenet that they follow necessarily. Right. Like, it's kind of like an unspoken kind of thing. Like, don't leave a fellow Jedi behind, but like, we've seen that happen too. Like, you know what I mean? Like, complete the mission, get to the thing. Like, he died serving the Republic. He died doing that, like,
he did.
There's a lot of shit where like,
he did the
when
thing.
So when he says those things, you're like, oh, he got caught. But and then you think about it, it's like, shit, did he?
Yeah.
Or is he like,
yeah.
Is he like an ex-Jedi who's been spurred and like, their guidelines more than codes kind of thing? Again, to reference Pirates of the Caribbean,
Pirate Jedi,
right?
like you said,
it's more of a suggestion kind of, like. Mm-hmm. That's why it's playing so much with me. Is like, is he a Jedi? Is he just a Force user? Is he using some magic tricks? Is he a dark side user? Is he just someone who stumbled upon, like, woke up one day and was like, hey, I want that beer, and it zapped to his hand. He's like, fudge, I have the Force, like,
what's that? Cerveza Crystal. That was what
yeah, exactly.
Nice.
Fantastic.
Oh, you walked into that one. You
I have a
walked into
running
that one.
theory that he's one of the children that Cad Bane tried to take during the Clone Wars.
Ooh.
Insofar as we never really saw what happened to them.
Oh, okay.
And
okay.
we know that they have the Force. We know that they have the Force fairly strongly.
Yep.
But it would have been at that point where, with all of that crap going on, maybe never made it to the temple.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I'm leaning, is that they knew he had the Force. He grew up knowing he had the Force. So somehow maybe he had, like, I don't know, a Quinlan Voss come through and show him a couple things, and then decided to go pirating because, well, that's what we do around here.
Yeah.
That's kind of my running theory. I don't think he's like a trained Jedi, in part because there's no bits and bobs around him like, say, Kanan, where there's like something there that's like, there's a Jedi buried in here somewhere.
Yeah.
So like, a crystal or a piece of a lightsaber hilt.
Right.
There's nothing there.
Oh, yeah.
And he's very, very quick to use a blaster. But he's also quick on the draw with the Force, if that is in fact what he's doing, which I think it is.
It seems like
that way. Yeah.
So that's where my theory is for where he came from at the moment. Could change, could be completely wrong, but that just seems to be at least a plausible spot for his origin, just because I also in part because I have the bias of I don't think we need to have more people that survived Order 66.
Right.
Yeah.
Just keeps adding up.
And that gets around that issue perfectly, because of course he survived Order 66. He's not a Jedi. He was never trained. He never entered the temple.
He was part of it.
He was just
one part of it.
born at the right time to have Force powers and have nobody to train him.
Right.
So like you said, maybe he did pick up something here or there, or some rogue Jedi trying to survive Order 66 was like, hey, here's how you float a cup, and I'm going to go get stabbed by an Inquisitor.
Ouch.
Jeez.
I hate it when that happens.
I know that a lot of Inquisitors die. A lot of Jedi died by the Inquisitors, so it's like it's possible they got trained by a couple passing through, and they just
right.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Along the path, yeah. Exactly.
I love that. I love that theory. That's
cool.
That's decent. And I love that, again, those little references, the little tie-ins of like, could we have seen him before, or at least seen some of his crew of like the people Cad Bane was trying to kidnap or did kidnap for a brief moment. I love that. I love that. So what do you guys think? I'm just going to keep unraveling more mysteries here. So we've got Jod as a big mystery. What do you think At-Aten really is? Do you think there's more mystery there? Do you think it's a planet that was like, the world's going to shit, the universe and the galaxy's going to shit, let's just shield ourselves? Or is this something else?
Yeah.
Are they using this as the tie-in? Is this an Empire mining facility, a secret Sith cloning world, a research facility? What do we got going on here?
What is the great work? Yeah.
Right.
Could the great work simply be, maybe there was an Illuminati apart from the Senate, which was corrupt, and the courts was corrupt, and everything on Coruscant that was basically a shit show, that said, look, we know that everything is going to fall. Everything is going to fall apart. It's one of these, like in Battlestar Galactica, which Peter and I do a Patreon on that. This what has happened before will happen again. We know that things are going to come to an end. We need to create perhaps even a type of a wildlife refuge where the essence of our society will be protected in a dome, which they've done that in a lot of different Star Trek episodes. One in Voyager I can think of in particular, where there was a dome where on a planet life moved forward, but within the dome there were like cave people roaming around. You know what I mean? Because they never evolved and never developed technology, and they never knew that they were any different. They were blissfully ignorant that there was no outside world, and they only knew what was in their computer banks. And their great work was potentially just keeping up the facade of staying hidden. So, they're shoveling coal into the furnace that powers the big shield that goes, or, the shield around the world that protects them. So that's my vibe. They're like a big kind of like Lost, like the Dharma Initiative. They're a big experiment to preserve a controlled environment and then as generations go by. So maybe that colony has been there for 1,000 years. 500
Sounds
years.
like they've been there for a while.
And so
based on the technology.
So basically,
and the money was what, High Republic?
Yeah, it was High Republic money.
Yeah,
or it was at least Old Republic.
Yeah,
and
so
not seen in that condition.
As we know, technology in Star Wars moves forward very slowly, as we saw in the Acolyte versus even what we see in the sequel trilogy. Things don't seem to change much. So I feel like they're a grand kind of wildlife protectorate, like M. Night Shyamalan's The Village. Like, well, let's set something up that's like the 1600s, and the people won't know that that's what it is, and we'll raise a whole generation that people, are churning butter and shit. You know what I mean? I feel like that's kind of what's going on here.
If this whole series ends up, or that planet ends up being a biodome planet with a series that has such 80s and 90s throwbacks, if we don't get a Pauly Shore, Stephen Baldwin cameo in the final episode,
they showed up when he said, "We knew it. We knew it."
I vote re-riot.
Yes, let's do it.
That's Peter. What about you? Any thoughts on what kind of situation we got going on here?
So, I was thinking that. Originally I was thinking that this was probably something that the Republic kind of put out there. I wonder if this is some sort of like, and I know I every time I'm on here I always tie back to the things that I know, but I have a sneaking suspicion that this is like something kind of like an Outbound Flight situation where you had colonists or something go off to do, we don't really know what, because that book never really told us what they were doing other than exploring.
They're going to do a thing.
But going off to explore during the High Republic instead of like during the Clone Wars, which is when the book originally did it. But so you go off and have these planets, but the whole purpose, based on what I'm seeing, is to, I think you're kind of on the money there, is like preserve what the Republic is, so that if something were to happen, the preppers in the Republic can come back and
it's the disaster preppers,
the disaster preppers,
and the guys who have all the canned beans and water and stuff. Yeah,
but I only say that in part because of the aesthetic vibe. Right, it's kind of like the 80s, kind of a Cold War sort of feel.
Yeah.
And so I wonder if that's kind of what they're leaning towards, just because of the aesthetics.
Yeah.
Is that it's a prepper society going
it's big Fallout vibes. Don't know if you guys watched that show. I know Charlie didn't play the game, but the show,
we were in love with the show the same way. Yeah, we were in love with
chunks of Fallout. But that's kind of what I'm thinking it is.
Yeah.
And the great work is either building up something, some ship, some station or something to bring back to the Republic for whatever, or it's or there's something more nefarious going on, because there's a very 1984 kind of feel going on.
Yeah.
And so there's definitely, everything is not as it would seem.
And it's not good. There's something in it that's not great.
Because of how the droids are, particularly how the droids are designed, being, street cams.
Keeping an eye on everybody.
It makes me lean more into that 1984. There's something going on here, and especially like how, what was her name again? Numa, or the
mom.
Supervisor, right?
Yeah, the mom, the sassy Wendell? Girl's mom.
So fair,
the one who appeared in the school and
Farrah.
And was talking about.
Because she's a supervisor, and she's talking to everybody about taking their SATs,
and how
so they can figure out
so that you have a specific
go.
role.
Right.
And it's very regimented. There's definitely
very much take your place.
Isn't enough hints for me to like say exactly
order.
What it would be.
Yeah.
But there's something going on underground or in the main area.
The ants toiling in the salt caverns kind of thing.
Those are the vibes that I'm running with, is that like under surveillance, creepy, always watched camera, something shady going on kind of vibes. Yeah. And I'm using the placement of this series to suggest that it's something going on with like Sith or Empire, most likely Sith. Like this is a lineage play based on how old these hidden planets are, for like some Sith Empire, like, because this again is happening around the same time as Mando, and all of the Mando stuff so far has been like leaning into explaining partially, like there's that side plot through all of Mando about somehow Palpatine came back, somehow Palpatine returned, right? Like they've done a lot of work behind, like as that subplot thread through Mando of like, here's some cloning stuff, here's the research, this is why we want Grogu, this is what this is tying into, and like all of that stuff has been pulling this same thread. And since this show takes place somewhere around that same timeline, we've seen some of these pirates pop up in Mando before. I'm thinking that might be a behind the scenes kind of thread that we're finding out that this is a long play Sith thing, whether it's the Final Order, preparing some ships, preparing some weapons, getting materials, who knows. But yeah, I think there's something like mining
over from, like, I don't know if they want to do a name drop, Revan or Bane.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Go and
back. The mining could be something, like Kyber crystals to power a Death Star had to come from somewhere. What are they mining on this planet?
Right.
We know they didn't tap Ilum until Starkiller Base, so it wasn't that. Right. But like, are we seeing some other, so I'm wondering if they're playing with that thread. I could be way off, and I'm only basing that off of sketchy ass vibes and timeline of when this is happening, and me thinking that they might start tying it into that.
Yeah, it's super set. Absolutely super sus, and they're doing something that is very hinky, but they've been doing it for hundreds of years, whatever it is, because they're like, this is what we do. We toil in the sugar mines and Yeah. It's and they don't know any different because they're not acting with any higher authority. They just have a set of instructions that that's what they're supposed to do, so that's what they're doing.
And I hate to say it too, but specifically because I know we're not getting a season 2, but I'm really wondering if they were starting to maybe consider planting some of these threads of tying things into the Acolyte, of again that long play. We see Plagueis in the shadows. We see that there's some shit going on. They said Plagueis was going to tie a lot more into season 2. I wonder if there was some connecting thread, because that was the show that happened before this one. And I'm wondering if there was anything there. I might be grasping at straws here, but like,
maybe. Yeah, I don't know.
That was the end of the High Republic.
Yeah.
This planet's been hidden for maybe hundreds of years, maybe 1,000, who knows?
Yeah, you're right.
But it could be hidden. Like they could easily say it's been hidden since the fall of the High Republic, which would tie this into exactly the timeline for Acolyte and exactly the timeline for Plagueis to start setting some shit up in the shadows very secretively. So simply on release order, I'm really kind of curious there. And it was kind of like too late to go retool this whole show. And then it doesn't really matter if Acolyte doesn't get a season 2, because those characters have been talked about and they could just kind of do this on its own. So like with some loose tie-ins, it could be viable.
Yeah. I don't know. We will know in 6 episodes, without a doubt.
That's it. And we're going to find out a lot more before this episode drops. We will have seen the next episode. It's kind of like release days are playing against us for this one specific drop. But I think we're good to wrap it up there, unless you guys have some final thoughts on this episode or where you expect the series to go after this.
I am just on board for the ride. They're delivering what I think are a lot of thrills, a lot of fun. This is our first genuine experience to see this through like kids who look like kids, not like Anakin and his friends, which felt kind of clunky and weird because it was written by George. I kind of feel like this is they're really hitting it. So I don't know where it's going. I know that at Adlin there's something wonky going on there, and I'm excited to find out what that is. That's the biggest mystery. Not if these kids get home, but if when they get home, it's something that is scary for them. You know what I mean? And they're like, oh my God, this is really what it is. So I'm definitely curious.
Yeah. Peter? Any last thoughts or where you want the series to go?
I mean, I just have to say that this is a refreshingly awesome show, and I think it's really cool that they, took to heart the idea that Star Wars was always made for 12-year-olds. And just kind of ran with it, and I think that's a really cool little thing. I hope that we get kind of that sort of, here's the Goonies pirate ship under the town moment.
Right.
Because I think that's where we're going, is we're going to figure out what's going on. Maybe it'll be not as nefarious as we all think.
Yeah, it could be totally innocent.
Just
like, sure,
here's a pirate ship that was,
there you go.
It's
all good. It's all good.
But I just hope that they keep the fun up and definitely keep that mystery, because it really makes the story intriguing and interesting. But keep that fun, keep those characters just doing ridiculous things, and keep that 12-year-old out looking at Luke Skywalker swinging a lightsaber and stormtroopers missing things. It's just a great thing. It's just a great thing.
Fun with it, the fun.
So
the actual.
I'd love to see a few more. I'd love to see tie-ins, but I'm totally fine not having any.
Yeah,
simply because what I think is a good thing is that we're allowing things to stand on their own. That's what helps people. That's what helps some of us enjoy things a little bit more, because then we don't feel like we have to go watch all the things to make sure that we know what's going on. It's
right.
I can just sit here and speculate and think about it, but I don't need to go back and watch Ahsoka or watch the Acolyte to make sure that I know what's going on. I can just watch the Skeleton Crew and just be like, I'm enjoying the blasters and the kids running around going, where's SN33?
Outside of this wide world of content that we live in. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it would. I would genuinely love to be completely tricked, where these camera security droids are not nefarious at all, and this planet is hidden because it's Cibola or the City of Gold of the Star Wars planet. They're just we need to hide this because this planet is so rich that everyone is probably going to come and strip it away, and that's why pirates are drawn to it, because it's a literal planet made of treasure.
Treasure planet.
Treasure planet.
Right? That's it. Well, thanks for joining us, Peter. This was a blast as always. You're always welcome here on Holocron Chronicles. We appreciate you jumping in.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Good deal. All right. Well, with that, that's the show. Peter, as always, where do people find you out there?
You can find me around at Petrus Aquinas. I'm not terribly active, but if you poke at me, I might say something. I'm on the Discord, so that's usually where I'm at. You can also find me around on ELH's channel doing some Star Trek role-playing games, or behind the scenes on some Star Trek audio series. So
excellent. Mark, what about you?
You can find me on Instagram and TikTok, as long as that's still a thing.
Maybe.
And Threads at Canardian_Jedi. Always hanging out in our Discord group. And I can't remember my Blue Sky handle. It's, I think, Canardian-Jedi, because they don't do underscores, but that shows how often I'm using that app. So really hit me up on Instagram.
It's the wave of the future. I'm just kidding. I bounce between Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky, and I'm at the C3 at all of those, which makes it easy. TheCeeThree. The most active I'm on is our awesome Discord, Secret Friends Unite Discord. We've got a lot of great folks on there talking about geek stuff. I also run a Discord for Star Trek fans called the United Trekkers of Michigan. Come find us and join us there. You don't even have to be from Michigan, but we did have to call it something. But with that, thanks again for joining us, everybody. I'm going to tell you, as always, that sharing is caring, and keep on trucking.
May the force be with you. Rex, play us out.